100% the best video ever.
This is great.
We got 25 minutes. We gotta go.
Hey everyone, happy Wednesday.
Update.
Welcome to Say That channel. If this is your first time, hey Jeannie, if this is your first time with us here on Say That channel, we just want to say welcome. We are all about the ugly come up and being unapologetic about it. So you've all heard those stories about people who start off with nothing and then have massive success. And you're like, what happened in the middle? What happens during the ugly come up? Well, that is what we're here to talk about. My name is Janelle Villiers. That over there is Winston. We are your co-hosts, and we love this topic. We love to get into it with you. We've had some amazing guests with us, but here's the thing. We only have 25 minutes to talk about the topic question of the day, and then we run out of time. And then what do? Oh no. Well, become a Patreon member, join us on Patreon, and you will get all of the overtime like tips and tricks from all of our guests. There's a gold mine of information there. So make sure you become a Patreon member so you can catch all of that information. And hey, look, it doesn't even cost anything, for free. You want to know how you can support us? Hit the subscribe button, the like button, the notification bell, because that tells the algorithm that what we are giving provides a lot of great information for everyone out there. So please go ahead and do that. That would mean the world to us.
Absolutely. Let's jump into today's topic.
Could your presentation skills hurt your business? Well, this is a great question. I think as business owners, we can all agree that when we present our business to folks, it actually means a lot. And so we have an amazing guest on today to help us talk about that. Really give us some tips. I'm super excited. He is a retired lieutenant colonel. He's a father, a husband, an entrepreneur, a professional public speaker. Please, everybody, a big round of applause for Kevin McIntyre.
Our next guest.
Welcome in.
Well, thank you very much. That was the most amazing introduction I've received this week.
Awesome. I'm so glad to be amongst all these people who are introducing you. And for those that aren't familiar with your story, I left off. He is also a PhD candidate, just short of his dissertation. I'm really excited for you. So for those who are meeting you for the first time, please share with us a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey and how you got here.
Well, it had a beginning, then it had a middle, then it had an end. And the middle was non-entrepreneurial. The beginning was, and the end now is. So I'll start with the beginning. My brother and I, and along with the help of my father, when we were teenagers, still in high school, we had two thriving businesses. In the summertime, we worked with real estate agents that had homes that were empty that they were trying to sell. So in order to keep those nice looking, they hired my brother and I to keep the grounds and even some of the cosmetics looking well.
Nice.
Between the two of us, this was in the 1970s. Between the two of us, we grossed about $800 a week. And that was in $1970.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now it got better, because what do you do in West Virginia, which is where we're from? What do you do in the wintertime? You sell firewood. So there was an organization that was building a resort in the woods, and they were cutting down all these trees to pave the roads and do all this and make the home sites. So we went over there and said, what are you doing with all this wood that you cut down? They said, we would love if you would haul it off for us.
Wow.
We said, sure.
Wow.
So we sold cords of firewood in the wintertime, made almost as much money during the winter. Now we're still in school. We graduated, did this for a couple more years before heading off to college. The thing that happened in the in-between period is we bought into what everybody's told: go to school, get good grades, go to college, and then get into the corporate world. Now, my brother and I, we chose a little bit of a different path because of the history of our families, which has been, we are a great military family.
Okay.
if you talk about anybody in my family, they've been a sergeant, a colonel, a general, a captain, across the spectrum, deep into our lineage, including a close relative. So I spent over 30 years in the military. Part of that was in the National Guard and the Reserve. So I was able to work at IBM, Allscripts, and a couple other software companies. And during that period of time, I had a lot of speaking opportunities. As a matter of fact, because I was well versed in public speaking, when I worked at IBM on these big projects, they chose me to be the spokesperson to go in to talk to the C-suite, to talk to the board of directors. I was even there sometimes during the sales process of these multi-gazillion dollar projects, from anywhere from 10 million to $120 million.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But for the last 8-9 years, post-retirement from the military, leaving the corporate world, I have two businesses basically. One is public speaking. So as a professional paid speaker, but also teaching people public speaking. From the Fortune 500, I've trained about 6,000 people so far. Sometimes a group, and then sometimes individually, like a CEO is getting ready to do a keynote. They want someone objectively to look at their delivery, look at their content, make sure it makes sense. And then another expertise of mine that I garnered from the military and some other experiences is in the crisis management world, adverse events. And I have quite a bit of experience. And so I'm actually a consultant with another consulting company, and we focus on private schools and small and medium-sized businesses, making sure that they have the tools, the plans, the message maps, and et cetera, when they face an adverse event, that they're like, oh, what do I do now? We help them prepare for the adverse event. And I think I shared with you when we were still backstage. I love StreamYard. 67% of organizations, whether it's a private school, small company, medium-sized company, and even some large companies, when they face an adverse event, if they're not prepared, if they don't have plans, and they haven't thought through the process of how they're going to respond. And by the way, when you don't have a plan, you don't respond, you react. Those are two entirely different things, and they have two entirely different outcomes. We want to respond. But when those companies that react, 67% of them within 2 years are out of business. And I don't care what size of company it is. If they haven't prepared, they're out of business. One of the fallacies that this reaction phase has to it ties into our public speaking and our public information officer experiences and so forth, is that people tend to, I call it, rush to the microphones. Even if it's not the media. Let's say private school, and we had this happen with a client recently. They called a meeting when they had an adverse event. They had a problem employee that caused trouble. They rushed to the microphones. They called a meeting. They made it 10 times worse. Then they were trying to get the horse back in the barn, and it was a little too late. And they called us after the fact. If they had called us before the fact, and if they had planned, they wouldn't have faced the backlash that they faced. So those are the things that I'm involved in. Being a paid public speaker, training people to public speak, not necessarily to be paid public speakers, but in the Fortune 500. Can I lead a meeting? Can I be counted on to speak at a conference? As a CEO or somebody high up in the organization, can I deliver a keynote that makes sense and where they'll actually ask me to come back?
Wasn't that great?
Be able to come back. You know? So.
All right. Well, then people can completely understand, based on your experience and who you've worked with and the people that you've helped, that you were definitely the right person to ask this question, which is, could your presentation skills hurt your business? What say you, sir?
I'll give you the short answer first. Definitely.
Yes.
Definitely. If you cannot stand in front of, let's say you're trying to get funding. If you can't stand in front of the, let's say, the venture capitalist and successfully present your case,
Mm.
you're not going to get the money you need. You may have the greatest idea in the world, but if you can't talk about it effectively, if you can't present it in a powerful, convincing, and persuasive way, then you're not going to succeed. If your boss comes to you, and this has happened among my 6,000 people that I've trained, if your boss comes to you and says, wow, hey, Janelle, you're really great at X, whatever X is.
Mhm.
We would like you at our offsite with our 300 most important people in the organization. We would like you to address all 300 of those and give them a little rundown of what your expertise is.
Mm.
Okay, do you know what happens when most people get that invitation?
They
They're
freak out.
looking for the exit.
Yes.
Okay, because the most people they ever spoke to was in a meeting and they were sitting down with everybody else. It's 3 to 5
Right.
people, and
Mhm.
this is true across the spectrum. I don't know why my phone went off. Excuse me. Okay, so you have to be able to stand in front of a room.
Mhm.
You have to have a certain presence, and you have to do certain things, not only with your content, which is where most people focus, but also the delivery.
Mm.
Delivery of that content. So first, starting with your content, it has to make sense. I have a little saying, it's easier to pull a rope than it is to push one. So if you're pushing people through your presentation instead of pulling them, in other words, they're in what's coming next. See, using certain techniques of
Mhm.
content creation, then you're going to lose them very quickly.
Mm.
The first thing that people need to learn, and I tell my students at the university as well, the first thing in public speaking, presenting, leading a meeting, giving a speech, whatever that situation, could even be one-to-one.
Mm.
You have to learn how to be comfortable, and that is a learned skill. Most people don't know that.
Yeah.
Learning to be comfortable in front of an audience is a learned skill.
Mm.
It has certain components to it. Let me give you the most important one. And I've queried every group of people that I've taught in public speaking, all 6,000. And I asked them, okay, your boss came to you, because most of them are here because they panicked when they got the invitation
Yeah.
to speak. So they're like, oh, let me
Right.
sign up for a course. So the thing that you have to do is stop thinking about yourself. Most people, for the first 2 weeks leading up to speaking at an offsite, giving a conference speech, or even the CEO giving the keynote speech, they're inside their head thinking several things. What if they judge me? What if I forget?
Mhm.
Here's the big one. What if I forget what I'm going to say next? What if I
Mhm.
embarrass myself and my company? Instead of thinking, how do I make sure that the audience gets the message that I have for them?
Mhm.
See, that takes us from inside here to out there. It shifts the emphasis to the audience
Mhm.
away from me, 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 me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And once you make that transition, now, how did I discover this? Let me tell you a little story. So back in the day
Sure.
when I was a sergeant, my boss came to me. She was a captain, and she says, "Hey, Mac," she called me Mac. She says, "Hey, Mac, would you mind teaching on this particular piece of equipment? You seem to be very well versed in how it works." And it was a life-saving piece of equipment. I used to fly medevac for the Air Force.
Okay.
I said, "Sure." I wasn't thinking when I said sure. I just said sure. So I prepared for the class. I thought it was going to be a bunch of people my rank in the room when I taught the class. So leading up to that, I never had any nerves. I wasn't thinking about those things that people normally fear. What if I forget? What if they judge? I didn't care if they judged me because they're my buddies.
Yeah.
Well, that's not who showed up. They invited other people. Okay, I'm a little lowly sergeant. I got majors, captains, colonels, even the general stopped by for a few minutes.
Wow.
All right, now I should have been wigged out, right? I should have panicked. I should have had a full-blown panic attack, but I didn't, because my thought was, this is a life-saving piece of equipment that I know how to use. I know everything about it. Let me just show them for 30 minutes, didactic. And then those who want to come up and practice, which we had a practice session set up, they can come up and they can practice.
Okay.
Nobody was more surprised about how well that went than my commander, who came up to me later and said, "We're going to have you teach more classes." And I was like, "Okay, but here's the deal. See, I never worried about Kevin leading up to that presentation, leading up to that training. And if you can stop thinking about yourself before the speaking opportunity, whether it's just leading a meeting with a few people in the room, or giving a conference speech, or going in and asking your boss for a raise, we do that sometimes. We can get sweaty palms. Then you're on your way then to developing technique. Because then you can think about, okay, I have my content. I'm comfortable, somewhat comfortable.
Yeah.
Now let me focus on how I deliver the message.
The content. So to that point, and I'm happy the story actually led us to this point. I wonder about the person who agrees with you. Their product, their content, they think it speaks for itself. And maybe they're having a challenge where they aren't still able to convey the value of it. And they're just going out saying, but Kevin, I mean, this thing it can save lives. What do you say to that person who, for them, they're so excited about their product, they don't really see the value in maybe working on the skill part?
Well, there are people like that.
Yeah.
So, and most of the people, Winston, that fall into that category are people that are already comfortable.
Okay.
See, because a lot of people came to my classes, in my workshops, 10%, 1 out of 10, it was usually 1 to 2 out of 10 would say, "I'm perfectly comfortable when I stand in front of the room. I don't know why I'm here." They would say that. "I don't know why my company sent me here because I don't need any training."
Yeah.
Until they saw their first video.
Okay.
And they're like, "Okay, now I know why my boss sent me." Because being comfortable is just the first step. Being comfortable does not make you a great speaker.
Okay.
Technique and skills. So being comfortable is a learned skill, but then what to do with these is a learned skill. What to do with this is a learned skill. What to do with all of this is a learned skill. So content and delivery technique equal an adequate, good, or great speaker, depending on the level of training and experience. That's the difference. So I don't necessarily argue with that person, Winston. I'll say, "Hey, well, let me see what you got.
Yeah.
Let's see a little sample." And then I'm like, "Well, that's pretty good, but let's try this."
Yeah.
"Oh, that's okay, but it might be more effective if you tried this thing over here." You know, and I never force anything on anybody because that doesn't work. He who is convinced against his will is of the same opinion still.
Yeah.
Now, if they don't
Yes,
want
friend Franklin.
exactly, if they don't want to show me, I'm like, have at it. And out of the 6,000 people that I've trained, many were made to come by their company because their boss recognized there was a deficiency. The person that didn't necessarily, like you're saying, Winston, didn't necessarily see the deficiency within themselves.
Yeah.
But out of 6,000, I only had 2 people, 2 out of 6,000 roughly, that ever stopped taking the coaching. They said, "Stop coaching me. I'll get up and give the speeches that you require, but don't coach me anymore." And I'm like, "Okay." I said, "But are you okay still giving feedback to everybody else that still wants to be coached?" He goes, and they said, "Sure." And it wasn't ugly. They just said, "I don't need your." They did, but if you don't want me to coach you, I'm fine with that. You know, it's a waste of $3,000 your company spent for you to be here.
And you have to be in a place to be receptive to that feedback yourself, like you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think once people, even the ones who didn't understand why they were sent, I think after they start seeing the improvement in the cohort, and they even see the improvement in themselves. And I'll give you an example, a really bad example. So I was teaching in Amsterdam. Everybody was well, I was the foreigner. So everybody else was from France, Germany, Belgium, Amsterdam, etc.
Mhm.
Across the spectrum, Sweden. And I had a French guy in there. And at lunchtime on the first 3-day program, at lunchtime of the 3-day program, we were getting ready to break for lunch. I was going to give everybody an hour and a half. We were kind of ahead of time. I said, do we have any questions or concerns before we break for lunch? Mr. Frenchman raised his hand. Second from the, I can still picture just so plainly in my mind. Second from the right over here. He goes, I don't like you.
Oh, wow.
I said, what? He goes, I don't like you. I said, well, I can understand that. I said, a lot of people think Americans are arrogant or that we know everything. I said, that's not my philosophy. And I said, so I tried to blame it on the other Americans. It did not work. He goes, no, I don't like you. He takes his finger and goes, I don't like you.
Oh.
I said, okay. I said, well, why don't we talk about it before you go to lunch? And I have to tell you, at this point in my life and career, nothing phases me. I didn't care if they didn't like me. And the other people were, it's really funny. They're all sitting. And as soon as he said that, especially when he pointed his finger at me, they're all like, right up. See, did I blush? Did I lose it? Did I panic?
Right.
I'm like, okay, let's talk about it. And then one guy over here, and I think it was somebody from Amsterdam, he goes, hey, dude, that's wrong. He goes, and then the French guy's like, I don't care what you think. Yeah. So we talked for a few minutes, and I said, well, everybody else kind of left. And I said, give us some privacy. You guys go over there, because they were waiting on him for everybody to go to lunch.
Yeah.
And I said, what's the issue? He goes, well, the techniques you're teaching us are very American-centered. I said, well, I don't know how to make it any other way. I said, but, we're in a global economy. English is the dominant language in the global economy in some instances. And so maybe it's helpful. I said, however, now this program was $5,000 per person.
Okay.
I said, if you like, I can call up your company here at lunchtime, tell them that you don't want to be here anymore. I said, but there's no refunds. And I said, so the $5,000 will go right down the drain. Do you want me to do that? No. I'll stay. I said, okay, you can stay as long as you're not disruptive. Because I won't. By day 3, he kind of got back into it. And on day 3, he apologized in front of everybody.
Oh, wow.
Because I was wrong about this. Because this is actually pretty good. Because I was wrong about it. He'd say it was wrong about me. He's trying to save face a little bit, which I didn't. Right. If you want to save face, fine. That's cool. Yeah. So every once in a while, someone will come to be trained, and they don't want to be there. It's very rare. And even the people who come and they don't see the need, once they start watching what's happening, then they get into it.
Was he initially pointing out though sorry to jump in, Jay, when he, I guess, initially confronted you, what was it about what you were teaching him, do you think, that rubbed him so wrong?
I think, well, without being too poignant about it, he was from France.
Okay.
You ever been to France?
I have.
Okay.
If it's like the experience I had in a restaurant there when I didn't know how to speak in French in order, then yes, I understand.
Yeah, even though they speak English, they won't act like it.
Yeah, they will not speak to you. Yeah, it was actually very interesting.
So now I've been to parts of France that they actually like us. It's more in Paris or the big cities where you run into that. But I've had decent experience. But I do know that there is I think he just had the Paris attitude, but it went away.
I asked because I know there is in talking to people like internationally, there's a way they say Americans do business. We can be brash and I was just wondering if maybe there was something that was coming across to him.
No, I'm very diplomatic.
Okay,
I've been
okay.
teaching for a long time, and I know how to approach different. I train people where they are,
Okay, very cool.
and I never say, well, that's. I've had some people in my classes say, I've been to another training class, and the instructor screamed at me. It told me, stop doing that. Stop saying I said, I can tell you to stop saying all day long. You'll still say What I need to do is teach you an alternative behavior.
Yeah.
So you automatically stop saying
Yeah.
But if you focus on stop saying you will never stop saying
Because that's all you can focus on.
Yeah,
So
don't think
those
about
of
it.
us who are sorry, those who are on and who are watching, I just want to also mention that you guys, please, obviously Kevin is the expert here. If you have some questions, please drop them in the comment section. We see them and we will answer them while he's here. Time. This went super fast. Okay, so I wanted to ask a question that we'll answer in overtime, but the question I had for you, Kevin, was, okay, let's talk about the entrepreneurs who are presenting their service or product to a potential client. And what are some of the things that you would feel would be like a good tip to share with anybody who's facing that particular type of presentation? So we'll cover that in overtime. If you guys want to hear that response, definitely follow us in overtime. You can become a Patreon member. It's all in the description box below. We will head over there and you'll get to hear all of Kevin's wisdom on that side of things. But in the meantime, please reach out to Kevin. We have his email there. He is a real person. He will respond to you. Work with him. There's his website, so you can check out his website as well. Again, all of this is in the description box below. Thank you so much. What you had to share was absolutely amazing. I know I took a lot of nuggets from this, so this was really, really good.
I can't wait to get into it in overtime. Guys, remember, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss an episode. But until we see you next time, as always, remember, you deserve the good life. Say that.
Say that.
We'll see you guys in overtime.